Okay, it looks like the attendees list has stopped growing, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Tech Days, LINBIT's Tech Days. We've got OpenNebula with us today, and today we're going to be going into a deep dive of OpenNebula 6. Our speakers today are Alberto, and he is the community manager at OpenNebula, and we've got Jim as well, who is the cloud solutions architect. Alberto, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yep, sure. Yep. Well, thanks a lot, Brian, and well, big thanks to you and to the rest of the LINBIT team for putting together this really nice program for this couple of days with this new format of Tech Days. And well, we've been running them for a while. But for us, it's we run webinars in the year, but for us, this is kind of the first this new format for a Tech Day, the Tech Days we used to have with you guys, and so it's really nice. So really happy to be here, and also to be joined by my colleague Jim, and together we'll give you an overview, and he'll get into more details about the technical aspects and the new features in our release. We launched it a couple of weeks ago, so it's been an intense time for us preparing this, coming up to this new release, but we're really happy now. So a bit of background information on what OpenNebula does, and it's been doing for a while now. So we are, as many of you already know, we are an open source company. The project was born in 2005, and with the first release in 2008. So we've been around for a while now. And it was born as an infrastructure as a service solution. We're technically, yeah, I think we're a couple of years older than OpenStack, I think. So yeah, so it's been we've been pioneering this kind of technology in Europe, but also in North America as well, where most of our users are and customers. So the kind of stuff we do and the kind of services we provide, it's as an open source company, it's basically a subscription. I'll get into more details a bit later on, and professional services and managed cloud services for our customers. We are based in Madrid. We have the headquarters in Madrid, but we have offices also in the US and in the Czech Republic. And we are members of a number of initiatives and open source initiatives and projects like the Linux Foundation or CNCF, Linux Foundation X, and lately Gaia X, which is a very exciting project now taking place in Europe. So yeah, as I mentioned, a classic open source company with a business model that's pretty simple in that sense. It's we have some subscriptions for corporate users that need support and access to more details, our knowledge base, or they need access to at some point to professional services, and we provide that to them. Or they need some long-term support for their deployments. They have different requirements, so that's what we do as a company, and thanks to all this, we were able to keep developing the product, obviously. So today's session is an in-depth webinar on OpenNebula 6.0. And part of the development we've been doing for this version, part of the work we've been doing has been actually supported by the European Commission through the Horizon 2020 program. So we're really happy to be able to show to you all of you today some of the features we've developed thanks to this official support from the European Union. This project is part of a long history. As I mentioned before, 2005, with the OpenNebula was born as a research project at the university here in Madrid. And since then, it evolved into a commercial product, and the company started to provide commercial support to corporate users. And since then, we've been expanding the product to accommodate the different needs of customers and larger deployments. And what we've seen is an increase in the adoption of the technology being open source as it is. And also, this latest product has allowed us to move beyond the old concept of cloud bursting or setting up a hybrid cloud. And we've moved a step further in that sense. And that's what I'll explain to you in a second now. So if you see the announcement for the new release, you'll see we've announced OpenNebula 6.0 as the solution for you to bring your multi-cloud to the edge. But it's worth taking a minute just to explain what the edge actually means for us. So you probably all come across different pieces of news and announcements and different stuff on the media in the last years about edge computing. So what we wanted to do with OpenNebula is actually transforming and turning OpenNebula from being a solution for typically for your private cloud or for cloud service providers to be able to embrace edge computing in a way that actually, as you'll see in a second, embraces or surpasses the old concept of hybrid cloud. So for us, the edge is anything you actually need the edge to be. So as you'll see, it's something that everything that's outside your data center, for instance. So you decide where you want to deploy some workload, and we just give you the tools for you to do that. And edge computing comes with a number of benefits. That these might be more or less relevant or critical for some users, but all of them provide a number of important elements for companies now to take into account. Things like being able to deploy low latency applications or ultra low latency if you're deploying things at the very edge of your infrastructure, very close to your end user. Things like user experience in sectors like gaming, for instance. That's something we've been working in as well, and with very good results. Things like service availability, being able to have your infrastructure across a number of providers and making sure that no fire in a data center collapses all your services or your infrastructure. Things like reducing security risks or transfers of data from one place to another, vendor locking, typically of increased dependence. We've seen this increased dependence on some cloud vendors. And what we wanted to do, and Jim will get into that in a second, is how OpenNebula can help you implement a truly hybrid and multi-cloud strategy for your company. And that's part of the idea. So for you to be able, through OpenNebula, to be able to manage the traditional virtual machines you've always been, or we've always been dealing with in OpenNebula, but also now application containers and also Kubernetes clusters. And for you to decide where you want to deploy this workload, either in your core data center or in a classic public cloud provider or in the public edge providers that have emerged in this few years, and also in 5G edge providers like telecommunication companies, for instance. And also some of these stuff we're doing now, it's really exciting, is for companies to be able to both manage their own on-premise edge infrastructure or to use someone else's on-premise edge infrastructure. So for both use cases, we are actually designing these new features that Jim is going to explain in more detail in a second. So again, yep, welcome. I mean, thank you for your interest in the new version. We're really excited, and as you'll see, we've been working hard to create a really powerful open source solution for cloud and now edge computing as well. So happy to get into more detail during the questions and answers.
Thank you, Alberto. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim. I'm going to go into some details on what's new in the newest version of OpenNebula 6.0. At the end, we'll have a quick demo on some of the new functionality as well. So OpenNebula is an open source cloud management platform that allows you to create enterprise clouds that run all sorts of workloads on any sort of infrastructure, whether this be in your own data center, on the edge. OpenNebula gives you this ability to dynamically expand resources by consuming these popular, public cloud or bare metal providers, and our new functionality allows you to really quickly, automatically provision hosts there as well. Here we have a really high-level view of the OpenNebula architecture. You can see all the different types of virtualization we support, from VMware vCenter to virtual machines in KVM, system containers through LXC and Firecracker micro VMs. All of these can be managed together by a single OpenNebula instance by using our built-in Sunstone graphical user interface. And using OpenNebula gives you access to all of these tools you would expect in any cloud management platform, really, from multi-tenancy and self-service options, whether it be for end clients or users, to things like multi-tier applications, high availability, the ability to federate multiple OpenNebula instances together. Really gives a single pane of glass for your clients and users to manage all of their services. As Alberto mentioned, a few weeks ago, we released the latest version of OpenNebula 6.0. And now I'm just going to summarize some of the new features that's in there. So one of the most interesting features is this ability to automatically create these clusters in OpenNebula. Even if you don't have hardware yourself, you can consume resources from AWS and Equinix Metal right now. Obviously, if you wanted to use your own hardware, you still can. Whether you want to use, and these are all based, whether it's KVM, Firecracker, LXC, it really is just a click of a button, but I'll show you about it in a demo in just a little bit. So when deploying these clusters, we had to define a lightweight architecture that we're calling the edge cloud architecture here. This is hyperconverged. It is lightweight, but also powerful enough to run any workload with optimal performance. It always uses the best place storage backend, which in most cases will be the local disks on the hypervisors. The slide here, maybe it's a bit low level, but it does show all the different networking. So where you can have private application networks, whether dedicated to a certain host in a cluster or spanned across all of them. We have a private network that's automatically configured for storage as well as management as well. And this allows OpenNebula to control all of the physical hosts and launch workloads on top of them, regardless of where this cluster is, whether it's it's on-prem or in the cloud somewhere. So in regards to application containers, you don't have to use Kubernetes to run your container workloads when using OpenNebula. We have integrations with like the Docker Hub. It allows you to run these containers in Firecracker as micro VMs. You can download directly from the Docker Hub and build straight into OpenNebula that way. Doesn't really come with many performance downsides at all, but it does increase security by using Firecracker. We obviously understand there are situations where you absolutely need to use Kubernetes, and in them cases, there's also the ability to deploy and manage Kubernetes clusters inside of OpenNebula. We have templates that you can download, and everything like that. So in order to deploy these new edge clusters, we created a new web interface, but it's called FireEdge. This works separately from our existing UI that you may know. It's called Sunstone. FireEdge is mainly aimed at administrators, so they can come in and deploy edge clusters on these different cloud providers. We released 6.0 a few weeks ago with support for Amazon Web Services and Equinix Metal to start with, but we want to add lots more in the future, and we're already talking with a lot of vendors there as well. Going into some of the other improvements on existing features. So we've made some big improvements to our OneFlow product. OneFlow is an OpenNebula component that allows you to manage multiple tiered applications inside of OpenNebula. So these can consist of containers or virtual machines, or even a mixture of both together. A lot of the changes in 6.0 are mostly backend, but we've really improved the performance of it and the user experience as well. We had a lot of feedback from the community, and we've implemented all of them changes. Perhaps one of the most requested improvements was the ability to define backup policies inside of OpenNebula. So you can now set up a private marketplace the same way that you use for templates when you download templates. If you want to store your own ones, this can either use a standard HTTP backend or any kind of S3 compatible storage to host these. Obviously, it's recommended to be outside of the same location your VMs are. But once you add this marketplace to OpenNebula, you can back up and restore your VM disks and metadata all from the UI here. And just a couple of other features that released in 6.0. So for people using VMware, we now support vSphere 7. As you might know, VMware no longer supports VNC in their latest version. So we're using our FireEdge UI to proxy the VMRC from vCenter. And this allows you to view the consoles of VMware VMs inside of Sunstone without needing any additional tools or modules to download in your browser. We've really, not only for VMware, but this also improves the console functionality for KVM as well. You no longer have to use no VNC. You can access SSH and RDP services automatically as we proxy through Apache Guacamole. We've added a new driver for LXC system containers. So this is a new virtualization driver. And we've also improved some of the functionality for KVM as well. And finally, we've also released a technology preview of the containerized deployment method of the OpenNebula front end. So this is where all the services that you install when you're setting up OpenNebula for the first time, all of these are containerized now. So it's a really cool project. So there's lots of ways to get started with OpenNebula. We actually released a brand new quick start guide with 6.0 that gives you full details on how to use either an OVA on VMware, or we have a one script tool we call Mini1 that really allows you to have a fully functional cloud up and running in just a few minutes. If you go to opennebula.io/Mutara, it has all the details on how to get started, how to download these and how to deploy them and everything like that. So I was talking about FireEdge a second ago, and now we're going to go into a demonstration on how you can deploy these edge clusters. So in today's demo, we're going to add a provider to start with inside of FireEdge. We're going to use AWS today. We're then going to provision a cluster on AWS. We're then going to download a template from the OpenNebula marketplace. And then we will deploy an application directly from Sunstone. So to start with, you log into the FireEdge UI with the same credentials as you use for your standard OpenNebula Sunstone or CLI commands. You'll have a new UI as well. What we're going to do to start with, we're going to create what's called a provider on the sidebar here. You choose from either bare metal or virtualized. I mean, you choose the actual driver. So this would be AWS or Equinix. I've selected AWS here, so I would choose like a location within AWS to choose from. And here, what I'm doing is I'm creating a template. So I will just call this AWS London. And in here, I input the API details for the provider. So the access key and the secret key for AWS. Then once that's added, that will then be able to be used to provision an edge cluster in this location. After this, we're going to create what's called a provision, and this is the actual cluster. So again, I would go in to choose my provision type. So this is just a virtualized cluster on AWS. I select it there. I would choose the actual location within there. So as I added the London one. Again, this would be the name of the cluster inside of OpenNebula. And here we configure exactly, it's how many instances we want to create, the number of public IPs I want to get. If you want to customize the virtualization or maybe the instance type in AWS, you can as well. There's a lot more choices for like bare metal options. Once this is done, you get a full log of the actual provision. So you can see it creating clusters, data stores, networks inside of OpenNebula. It uses Terraform to provision these resources inside of AWS. And after a couple of minutes, the VMs we built, we use Ansible to automatically configure these VMs. So they'll be accessible and everything will be configured automatically. Once that's done, we can see the AWS cluster is online by the green light. We can go in and we can see the exact the cluster details, the information on the data stores, the networks with how many IPs are available and used, and all of the information on the host as well. So if we now log into Sunstone, so this is the standard OpenNebula UI, again, we'll be able to go in and see the same cluster we built, all of the hosts that FireEdge built for us in AWS. Again, as well, we'll see a virtual network. So this is what we provisioned automatically, all the network details of all the public IPs that we've leased from AWS there. And finally, on the storage side as well. So it automatically creates a system and an image data store to store VMs and everything like that. So we're going to go to our marketplace. So this is the public OpenNebula marketplace. We're going to download a WordPress template here. Just by a click of a button, you select the data store that you want to download it to. And then in just a couple of seconds, that will download depending on the size of the template. Once we have this downloaded, we can go in and create a virtual machine from it. So we can build a VM, we can choose our template, choose the name, the amount of them you want to deploy. And as this is a predefined template in OpenNebula, if you want to customize some of these attributes, you can. Upon clicking create, in just a couple of minutes, that will be built. It's really quick at provisioning, and you can see it's already got the IPs that it's been assigned from our pool of IPs. The page will automatically refresh based on the status. You can see the status has gone into boot, and it will be running in just a couple of seconds. We'll now just be able to copy the IP address here, and once we put it into our browser, we'll see kind of like the standard WordPress installation that everyone knows and loves. And this is just a really quick example of how this works. So yeah, this is a quick overview of OpenNebula 6.0 and all the new functionality. And yeah, if there's any Q&A or any questions, feel free to post now.
Yeah, so we do have a couple questions. First question that came in was, do you support only Docker containers? Can we use Podman?
I believe it should be okay. I know on our new documentation on the Quick Start guide, this is how to containerize OpenNebula as a inside containers. There's actually a guide for Podman as well, so it should be fine.
Okay. Somebody asked, what is the main difference from earlier versions to OpenNebula 6? So I guess if there's a change log somewhere available, or perhaps I guess.
Yeah, we have full release notes on our website. I mean, asking the main difference is I guess is a bit of a, how long is a bit of string, because there's been tons of changes and improvements. While they might not all be visible on the screen, the FireEdge UI is brand new in 6.0, for example, and all of the summary and the kind of the six bullet points for the different icons. These are all the big new features in 6.0. But on OpenNebula.io/Mutare, it has all of this information as to the main things that are there. So
okay,
I'll just post the link to the announcement we launched on the blog. That comes with some more information and links. And it's a subset of the release notes, but it comes with some of the main features, well in more details. So.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
On the chat. Yeah.
Got quite a few questions queued up here. So the next one is, do you support network overlays like VXLAN, EVPNs for node interconnect, or do you rely on underlying infrastructure to do so?
So when there's kind of two different places. So if you're installing OpenNebula as you would, you have your own servers in your data center, you want to install it from either our OVA or Mini One or from our main guide. You can absolutely use, there's lots of different types of networking, whether it's standard Linux bridging, using Open vSwitch, VXLAN, VLAN isolation. There's tons of different options on there. So when deploying an edge cluster, like I did on FireEdge there, it uses kind of like this base networking architecture, just because we wouldn't be able to support every single networking config when we're automating everything. But OpenNebula as a software package absolutely does.
Okay, cool. Next question, is there a user self-service portal?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Sunstone, like the lighter interface, we were looking at the end there. So this is Sunstone. Whether you're using this as an administrator or an end user, you can change the view slightly. So if you're an end customer and you don't want to see all the infrastructure or the how much resources exactly there is, there's what we call the cloud view. This gives a much it's a bit more aesthetically pleasing, more simplified way of provisioning for end users. But all of these are customizable in OpenNebula. We have, pages and pages of documentation on how to customize these exactly how you want. So if there's a specific, tab or icon or bit of information you don't want to show, all of this is customizable as well.
Well, that's good to know. Okay. Can we use LINSTOR and OpenNebula at Edge?
So again, by design, it uses kind of our edge cluster architecture. I imagine there's nothing stopping someone from going in after like provisioning the cluster and installing all the LINBIT packages and everything like that, and using it side by side. But there's not a one-click button in kind of FireEdge to kind of pre-install LINSTOR as well. Maybe in the future, who knows?
Yeah. Well, not yet, but that's actually, that's definitely one of the things we're going to be working on with the LINBIT team in the near future.
Yeah, and we do have a Q&A coming up with the developers, and I think in 2 hours here, or 2.5 hours. So we can deep dive into that then. But I know that Renee has been working pretty closely with OpenNebula to make that a reality for everybody. Okay, the next question. Do I need to drop my vCenter to use OpenNebula, or can they coexist?
No, they can coexist. There's no reason you can't. Most people out there already have an existing vCenter with VMs, templates, networks already configured. When you add this to OpenNebula, you actually you can import all of your data stores, networks, templates, VMs. So there's no reason you can't use them, side by side. But it's always best to have like a master, I guess. But yeah, no reason why not. Everything can be imported, and you can also use OpenNebula to create networks and templates from that point onwards. But of course, there might still be people who want to use vCenter, and that's fine.
Okay. So it doesn't look like we have any more questions in the queue, but we'll give it a few minutes here just to make sure. In the meantime, we do have another webinar coming up next which is a customer success story with Procolix, and that they deployed OpenNebula and LINSTOR together. So we can get a firsthand experience of how it all works together in the real world.
And obviously today's demonstration, and it mostly covers what's new in 6.0, but feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to give customized demos. The example on the networking, although we don't show this on the in the FireEdge and when deploying an edge cluster, but we totally understand people out there will be using Open vSwitch, VXLAN, etc. We're happy to give demonstrations and show how this works. So feel free to reach out.
And I believe we actually use OpenNebula inside of our own lab here at LINBIT, over in the Austrian side, over in Vienna. certainly helps being able to test things.
Yeah, one of the things we're always trying to do with technology partners is to for the early access to the beta releases, so that helps. Once the stable release is out, like was the case a couple of weeks ago, then make sure that the drivers are actually ready, they have been tested, and all the integrations they work. So
again, watch this space because there's lots more drivers coming up. So, AWS and Equinix are just for start.
Okay. Do you guys currently have a roadmap? I know that, so our LINBIT's roadmap's on our website, linbit.com. I'll link to it here in a minute, but I didn't know if you guys had one on the OpenNebula side.
Well, we have some bits and pieces here and there, but now with this new release, we are reevaluating the roadmap for the rest of the year, because that's also part of the priorities we have as part of this One Edge project. So we have to combine the requirements from customers and users, and when they start trying this and testing these new features. And yeah, we're working now towards, for instance, some close integration or some closer support for Kubernetes, and we're evaluating different options there. So yeah, I think we'll be ready in a few weeks to publish the roadmap for the next quarter. Yeah.
Okay. That we actually another question come in. OpenNebula on the Edge is currently available for x86, x64. Is it possible to compile KVM, LXC nodes for the ARM64, ARM HF platforms?
I don't believe so. It's definitely more of a Tinu question, who will be on the Q&A in a couple of hours. But I'll definitely reach out after the call as well and let you know. But I believe we're focused on x86, 64.
Yeah, but we've had some conversations, and that will be part of the work we'll be doing in the next few months. So probably, yeah, we're looking at support for ARM platforms. We will still have to confirm that.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. The next webinar will start in approximately 26 minutes at the top of the hour. So I hope to see you there. And if not, maybe we'll catch you at the developer Q&A here in a couple hours. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everyone.